Winnona Gaviglio is our guest today. This is our initial broadcast. And welcome, Winnona.
Thank you so much, Al. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, a little bit about Winnona, brief introduction. She's a serial entrepreneur, having started her first business when she was just 9 years old. Wow. Most recently, she founded UK USA Marketing, designed to help UK companies attract US companies through American speak. As that famous quote once said, we are divided by a common language. She has helped numerous UK companies to promote their services and products by attending and working the room at networking events and exhibitions, translating copy for websites, developing marketing campaigns, and fine tuning presentations and slide decks. She's marketed to some of the toughest audiences, kids. She's taught at a public school in Los Angeles County for a number of years. When she's not helping companies with their expansion plans, she is a mother, gardener, and an amateur singer. Here's what clients say. Sam Eaton, founder of Mindability, said, "We first started working with Winnona to help us translate our marketing copy. We had an instant result and sold a number of tickets for our growth accelerator programs. Why stop there, we thought. She now regularly attends conferences and exhibitions across the US on our behalf and averages 6 good quality leads that we convert each and every time for the smaller shows, and around 25 plus from the larger ones. She's worth her weight in gold." Whether Winnona works for small privately held companies or larger multinationals, she puts the same level of gusto and energy into her work. Well, that's quite a compliment, Winnona.
Thank you. It was a good time working with Sam and her crew.
Great. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So I am a California native, born in Northern California up by the Oregon border, and then moved to south of Los Angeles, and I've been here ever since. I was a teacher. I was a personal chef. I love to sing. And I've always been in marketing in some way, shape, or form.
Well,
But
that's
but my
quite a variety, huh?
I'm all over the place. So I'm one of those creatives. You can't pin me down for one particular job forever.
Well, that's awesome. So it sounds like you've got a pretty unique business. I don't think I've ever heard of somebody working with companies in quite the context that you do. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So that all started because of COVID. People weren't able to get out and about, especially from out of the country. And when I was chatting with someone who was in the UK and found out that they were struggling to get people interested in their offerings in their geographical location, I suggested that they talk to people in the United States. Maybe we can make a decision faster than they could in the UK at that moment.
Sure.
So I looked at the marketing material and gave my absolute honest feedback. No punches pulled back. Like I was telling it straight. No filter, no sugarcoating. Hey, you should move this. Hey, you should make this smaller, make this bigger. You can't say that. And I never asked, why are you saying that? What do you mean? Because the prospect is never going to ask that. It's how the prospect receives the information through the lens that the prospect is looking at the materials in.
Sure. And
Then
you've got quite an extensive background in marketing, don't you?
it's been over 20 years if you add it all up together. I took a break so that I could raise my kids, and they're beautiful and pretty self-sufficient now, so I can do my things again.
Well, that's awesome. So what do you find is a common myth about people in your field, just maybe in marketing in general?
So what I found is that a lot of people, business owners in general, think, okay, if I go to an expo or a trade show and I have a booth, I'm going to get all the leads I want. They're going to be quality leads because the right people are going to walk past my booth. That's a big myth. You need to have someone walking the floor outside of your booth and chatting it up with the other vendors, bumping into folks in line for food. That's a trick of mine. If you want to talk to the majority of, or like more people than general, go and stand in line for food a couple of times, because you get to talk to the person in front of you and the person behind you every single time. You can even say that you're getting food for someone else if you notice that the food server has seen you multiple times, but it works.
Well, that sounds like a good tip for our viewers. Um, so, in your career, and you've had quite an extensive career, what do you feel you've learned that's really significant?
That people in general are brilliant. They all have so much to offer. And if you can find out what that nugget is that's inside of them, it's like gold. That's what you can share with the world. That's what I've learned.
Wow. So, in your intro, you talked about it mentions here that you work trade shows for people in the UK and get leads for them. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh, that's fun. I get to be kind of like a secret spy. But first, I chat with the owner, and it doesn't have to be in the UK. It could be representing someone here in the States that they just can't travel. Maybe there's a wedding that they need to attend, or they can't leave their business for whatever reason. I get to go in and represent them on their behalf. So it starts like this. I learn all about their business, enough so that I can carry on an intelligent conversation with the people that I'm going to be in front of. Then we have established where the event is going to be, where I'll be staying, which will be the same place as the event or right next door,
Hmm.
just because of transportation issues. And then we figure out the flight so that I can get there early enough and take photographs, possibly meet with people ahead of time, maybe the organizers of the event. I take pictures along the way and I put those in a Google Drive and share them specifically with my client, who can then put them on social media and say, we're in New York City, we're in Las Vegas, we're in Los Angeles, wherever it is.
That's awesome.
Because
So you kind of
perception is reality, and
right,
that's
right.
how marketing works.
Wow, that is fantastic. So, in your opinion, what's the most important personality trait or strength that someone would need to have to work in your industry?
The desire to learn.
Mhm.
You cannot tell the world that you know everything and there's nothing left for you to find out,
Right.
because it's always changing. And in order to be a good networker, you still have to hone your craft. You have to advance your skills by talking to different people, reading different books, listening to different podcasts. There's so much information out there.
Yeah, it seems like there's a ton of information. How do you sort I won't say the word, I can't use it on the broadcast, but the bad stuff from the things that are really effective? How do you sort through all
So I've been doing this, not necessarily this because the business was born because of the pandemic, but I've been networking for over 8 years. I didn't know that I was networking before I was doing that professionally, but I was. And it's about cultivating relationships. So if you're getting a piece of advice that says to be a good networker, you need to grab the most business cards in the room or get the most contacts, run, because that's not how networking actually functions. You have to establish relationships, because if someone is going to like you and get to know you and then trust you enough to give you a referral, that takes time.
So tell us a little bit more about that. I understand you're a member of BNI. Is that correct?
Yes. So Business Networking International, it's been around for over 30 years, I believe. And they're in, oh, lots of countries, 50 something. I'm not sure. I think they closed like, I don't know, something $1 billion in thank you for closed business last year. Um, and it's a great organization to belong to, because it seems that the people who really, really want to get referrals instead of leads cold leads, they're warm referrals. Those are the folks that are in the BNI network. And
So tell us about that a little bit. What's the difference between a referral and a lead?
okay, so a lead is when perhaps you've got some digital campaign, and you're hoping that folks will come to your website, and then it kind of like funnels in. They talk about click funnels. You don't know that person. You don't know who knows that person. There's no familiarity. But a referral is one where if I were to give you, here, my friend Sally needs your services, I have already talked to Sally about how awesome you are, how effective you are. And then Sally is expecting your call. Totally different than a lead.
Right. Yeah. So there's a lot more information exchange, it sounds like. Plus, I mean, you're actually talking to the people as opposed to just getting something off the web, right?
Correct.
Great.
And
So
I'm expecting you to make me look good.
right, right.
So there's this accountability that's going back and forth that I'm only going to give you referrals if I know you're going to take care of them well, and then that reflects well on me.
That's awesome. That's an awesome piece of advice. So if someone wanted to start out in your type of business in marketing, what would you recommend to them?
You need to start in a very difficult situation where someone has not created it for you. So let's say that you're teaming up with your next door neighbor who has decided that she wants to have a cottage industry and she's going to sell sugar cookies that are in the shape of, I don't know, candy canes.
Okay.
And the two of you need to come up with an actual plan of how are we going to make this work, that we're going to create a demand for sugar cookies shaped like candy canes in the month of April. How can we sustain this throughout the year? I suggest that instead of just walking into a business that already exists.
Wow. So they're actually learning organically, so to speak, at the ground level
Yes.
where it's probably the hardest thing to do.
And you're talking to the business owner.
Right.
It's not, 2 degrees down.
That's awesome. So you always want to keep doing what you're doing, being in marketing, advertising, interacting with people? Is that something you have a passion about?
I've always been a promoter.
Mhm.
Even when I was younger, I loved to see my friends succeed. And if I would find out that they had an event, maybe it was just a yard sale or a book sale, some type of gathering, I would be the first one to share it on social media, send texts to people, and not getting paid, not monetarily, but getting psychological income in that I would know, okay, I'm helping my friends.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So here's an interesting question. What's your favorite productivity hack for an entrepreneur?
Okay, you're gonna laugh at this one.
Okay.
It's write it down, Charlie Brown. That's one of the things that I would tell my students because it rhymed. And I don't even think they even knew who Charlie Brown was, but that's beside the point because I felt old compared to how old they were.
Sure.
But write it down. My brain, because I'm more creative, I'm all over the place. And so I will look at a picture and think one thing, which takes me away from what I'm supposed to be working on. And so now what I'll do is I'll write down that thing that I thought of when I looked at the picture instead of leaving my task and chasing a squirrel, a butterfly, a shiny thing, whatever it is. So write it down and then you can look back and see, is it worth me doing that? And if you find that when you're writing it down, it's not even worth the time to write it down, then
Right.
it's not worth your time to do it.
All right. Well, I totally agree with writing things down because if I don't write them down, I forget. I mean, there's too many things going on in our lives, right? Um, so what time of day do you get your best work done, by the way?
So I kind of have bookends of being very productive in the early morning
Hmm.
and then late at night, which means I take a siesta in the middle of the day.
Oh,
Sometimes
very
it's
good.
15 minutes, sometimes it's 45 minutes, but that's what I need because I'm up early and up late as well.
Well, yeah, if you're dealing with the UK, that's your time difference is what, about 8 or 9 hours?
Yep.
Yeah. So, wow. Well, the woman of mystery revealed. Winona Gaviglio. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did. It's a
Okay,
ton.
great. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me on our initial broadcast. It's been a pleasure to chat with you and to get know you a little better and for the advice that you've given our viewers. Really, really appreciate that.
My pleasure.